people. Hare Krishna. Welcome, welcome, welcome. On the 11th of March, 2024, Monday, and 3 Tirobhavs today. Disappearance day of Jagannath Das Babaji, disappearance day of Rasikananda Prabhu, and disappearance day of Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj. So I'm going to speak briefly on these personalities, and then we'll go into our Jaiva Dharma study. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ramo, Hare Ramo. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, oh Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey. Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura, Gaura Hey, 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 Gaura Hey. Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ganhavika Giridhare. Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Rishabhananandini Vajeshwari Radharani ki jai, Nityananda Rai ki jai, Sachinandana Gaurahari ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Surabhi Kunj ki jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishiman, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om. Hasto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om. Asto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om. Asto Tarazara Shishimad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Shila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Tirobhav Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Brantaracharya Ki Jai. Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai. Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Baladasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Jai Swarab Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shrilahardas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikahol Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautandvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Richaji Janadvip Modandvip Rududvip Apmakanavadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwarasa Varmatmika Shri Braja Mandal Ki Jai. Shri Radhakun Shamakun Ganga Jamuna Devi Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Shrimati Yogamaya Punamasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai. Ketra Mandal Ki Jai. Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charidam Ki Jai. Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai. Charya Dham Ki Jai. Akara Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagat Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Magina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadavaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Sarupe Daita Sarupe Prema Sarupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhu Eka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swavilasa Rupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kurunavaritano Kalo Samarapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Tigatamba Sadipita Sadahridare Kandaresvaratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantam Anapaityam Apaitikrityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Tarvo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadita Rangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Prinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vajami Radam Aravinda Netram Smarami Radam Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radam Karuna Bharadram Tato Mamanastikatiyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naimam Charanantikam. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. And I'm again offering my Dandavat pranams to Namo Bhakti Vinodaya, Satchidananda Namine, Gauda Shakti Swarupaya, Arupanuga Varayate. And I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to all our Rupanuga Guru and all the assembled Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubevacha, Patitanam Pavanivyo, Vaishnave Namo Namaha. So today is a most auspicious day, and 3 Tirobhavs Jagannath Das Babaji and Rasikananda Prabhu and Bhakta Dvaita Madhav Maharaj. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was the senior of all the Vaishnavas during his time in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he took shelter of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Diksha initial guru was Bipin Bihari, but then he connected profoundly with Jagannath Das Babaji. It was Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj who confirmed the finding or the uncovering of the Yog Pit when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was diligently searching for the exact location of the Yog Pit. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has uncovered all of this Goradam practically. And he had so many maps and so on. And he was doing extensive research. And he managed to come to this one particular place where he'd seen a great illumination. And the only thing that would grow on this hillock was Tulsi. And he was convinced that this is the Yog Pit, this is the place of Mahaprabhu's appearance. Without establishing the place of Mahaprabhu's appearance, then the rest of the Vaishnava history, so to speak, would be very much weakened. The that birthplace had to be fully established, just like in every religion. Like previously, Krishna, he was born in the Janmastan in Mathura and then came to Vrindavan, etc. And we see other religions, they established Mecca, Jerusalem, Bethlehem, etc. So without having the location of the appearance of Mahaprabhu, everything was going to be weak. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he requested Jagannath Das Babaji at that time, who was about 140 years old. He was an extremely elderly personality. He had to have sticks to keep his eyes open. And he was always carried in a basket. He was an invalid, couldn't walk, by Bipin Bihari, or Bipin, his sevak. Bihari was his sevak's name. And he brought him to this site, and there were many hundreds of Vaishnavas gathered there, celebrating the discovery or the uncovering of this Yog Pit, this birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as soon as Jagannath Das Babaji arrived at this place, he immediately raised his arms in the air and began very loudly chanting, even though he was very advanced in years. And he jumped down from his basket and was just dancing ecstatically like a child. Everyone was just completely amazed. And he was proclaiming, yes, this is that birth site. This is that birth site. So today we are certainly remembering this pastime with great gratitude, because without this confirmation, how would Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur have had the confidence to put this on the map as being the birthplace of Sachinandan Gaurahari? So we are remembering Jagannath Das Babaji for this um, pastime. Also, it's described by our dear most beloved Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj how Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was ordered by Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj to begin the Pankaja, the astrological calculations of all the different festival days and all the appearance and disappearance days in the year. So he gave Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that service. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati at the time was an astrologer. He always was an astrologer, but he was studying that. So Jagannath Das Babaji wanted to utilize that expertise that he could perceive within Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So the reason why we have the Pankaja today is because of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji's instructing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to do that. So these two particular um, uh, events or activities of Jagannath Das Babaji we remember with great gratitude today, because without the Pankaja, of delineating all the disappearance and appearance days. How would we connect with all the different Vaishnavas? And it was for us, many, mostly the Westerners, we were introduced to honoring all these holy days very carefully because of Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. He made this very prominent um, uh, occasion for us to connect with all these different personalities. So Jagannath Das Babaji has many, many pastimes. He spent most of his bhajan years in Vrindavan, and in his later years, he moved to Mayapur and into Navadvip Dham in Kulia, and he would reside there. And he was the Mahant of all the Vaishnavas. They would gather, and he would speak with them. And he was a total Uttam Bhagavat. And we know the famous story that he would even consider all the dogs, especially the puppies, to be residents of the Dham. And when he was taking his prasad off his plate, he would allow the puppies to come and eat off the same plate with him. Only an Uttam Bhagavat can actually do like this. And the Sevaks would not like this idea and would try to remove some of them, but Jagannath Das Babaji would count the heads. No, there's two missing, he would say. And then they had to bring them back. So this pastime we remember on this day also. So Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. And then also is the Tirobhav of Rasikananda Prabhu. Rasikananda was from Orissa, born in Orissa, and he um, took shelter of Shamananda Prabhu. Shamananda had taken shelter of Jiva Goswami along with Narottam and Srinivasacharya, the three of them, and they had left Vrindavan and they brought all the books across to Bengal from the Goswamis, and they began to distribute them after they had been stolen by that king, and then they were found again by Srinivasacharya. But Shamananda himself was born in a village which was on the border of Orissa and Bengal. So he was very fluent in Bengal. After Mahaprabhu had left this world, the Muslims became very active in Orissa and they devastated the fledgling Vaishnava growth in Orissa itself. They even attacked Jagannath Puri and the Pratana Muslims, and they converted so many of the general people into Islam. So Shyamananda, he came and he did tremendous preaching, absolutely tremendous preaching in Orissa specifically. And he was not of a high class Brahmin family at all. He was not of a Brahmin family, but he initiated Rasikananda Prabhu. And Rasikananda was of a high class Brahmin family. And Rasikananda was a very, very powerful preacher, and he and Shamananda, they were responsible for practically bringing so many hundreds of thousands of souls back to the path of Vaishnavism in Orissa itself. And Rasikananda Prabhu is described as being um, also um, he was a fearless preacher because he would get a lot of criticism because his guru was not a Brahmin. So he had taken initiation outside of his caste, and for that he received a lot of criticism, etc. But he used to cut it very expertly. But there was a time when the Brahmins they became very envious of his prowess, of his teachings, and they arranged for a mad elephant to kill him. And he was in a village, and this elephant was intoxicated as they are, and the elephant was directed completely towards to kill Rasikananda and came thundering, charging towards him with his tusks there. And Rasikananda just stood fearless. And it's described that generally the Vaishnavas, they don't demonstrate any mystic opulences. They keep their mystic opulences for any time of need. But at this particular time, Rasikananda was completely alone. His followers and disciples had all run terrified away, and he was just left there alone. And he just began chanting a mantra to the elephant. And within a few moments, this elephant became completely under his control and then knelt down in front of Rasikananda. And Rasikananda was able to um, caress the head of that elephant in great friendship. And this just completely spellbound all the local residents, and especially the Brahmins, then they had much, much higher regard. Sometimes these Aishwarya acts are needed to demonstrate the potency of the Vaishnavas. Generally, the Vaishnavas don't like to exhibit these types of acts. We see in Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he also would demonstrate his Aishwarya Bhav because the residents of the Western world were so fallen and they needed that spark. Many times it's described by the disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they would see him looking like a million suns. He was looking like a million suns when he'd step off a plane or something like that. And his prowess was extreme. So the pure devotee will utilize these potencies in his preaching. So Rasikananda sometimes exhibited pastimes of this nature, but he was a great, powerful preacher, particularly in Orissa, and he was the right-hand man, so to speak, of Shyamananda Prabhu. So Rasikananda Prabhu ki jai. And then it's the disappearance day of Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj, who I had never really thought about until I heard from his dear disciple and follower, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. Each Vaishnava that we approach, they will give us the moods of their gurus always. And Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj, his main contribution, we can say, is his service to the Vaishnavas. His service to the Vaishnavas was excelled. There was no one who would act the way that he did in his um, careful behavior with the Vaishnavas and his service to the Vaishnavas. Many times, a Vaishnava might have been sick or something like that, and if they were his god brothers in particular, Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj would make all effort to procure whatever medicines were needed, whatever hospital was needed, or anything of that nature to help that Vaishnava regain his health. And he was always um, friendly and favorable towards all the Vaishnavas in the different groups, because we know what had happened after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left. Everything became very separated and fragmented. But Srila Dwight Madhav Maharaj was very much in tune with all the different mats all the time, and he would invite them regularly to um, his mat, and they would celebrate various Vaishnava occasions. And very, very powerful, benevolent preacher. And we get this same spirit from his Shishya, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, who has impressed within us all that unless we glorify these personalities on their appearance and disappearance days, it constitutes an offense. So, in doing this every time, then we are becoming so much more familiar with our Vaishnava family. So, Srila Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj was in the highest caliber of compassionate Vaishnavas, and his preaching was um, totally remarkable. So Srila Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, who introduced us to Srila Bhakti Dwight Madhav Maharaj ki jai. So these three personalities have their disappearance day today. So I went very, very briefly through all three of them just to um, honor them and to remember them. Bhakti Daita. Daita. Madhav Maharaj. Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you. What did I say? Oh, Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj. Yes. Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj ki jai. Thank you. So now we come to our Jaiva Dharma, and we're doing the Falshruti. I think we're into the first five of the Falshruti. So it's interesting. We're doing it again and again. We'll see what is revealed today. Pritivitayata kata dharma name chale, bhagavata kaya shava paripurana chale. As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, all the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as Dharma are utterly deceptive. All the philosophies on earth, this doesn't mean that philosophy that connects these conditioned souls with transcendence, This is separate. This Nitya Prem is the Pursartha. But these four regular Pursarthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, which we've heard so much about and which practically all spiritual institutions and ashrams were following diligently since the time of Ramanuja practically. They were all following this Dharma, Artha, Kama. Even Vyasadeva, he was actually following this until he met Sri Narad. And then he understood what is beyond that Naimitic Dharma, where is that Nitya Dharma. So all of these philosophies are utterly deceptive, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. Chale Dharma Chadikara Satya Dharma Mati Chatuvargya Tyaji Dara Nitya Premagati. One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and absorb his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the fourfold goals of material life. Dharma, which is like religiosity, it's mean doing your practice in a ritualistic, robotic way, practically. It means you're just offering the puja, you're not really connecting with that object of worship significantly. It's rather superficial. So that is the dharmic path that's described here. Dharma, then artha, this wealth, this economic development. And we see the whole world is just overwhelmed with this urgency to collect more wealth so they can enjoy matter. Then karma, the actual sense gratification of the karma, the actual sense gratification of the um, utility of the artha, of their economic development. And then moksha, looking for this nirvishesh brahm, which is such a dangerous place to go to. We've discussed if we go in there. I heard from a friend the other day that they had been chanting and experienced very much like the Brahman. And they didn't want to leave there. They wanted to stay in that place. It was light, comfortable, loving, warm. And they had the feeling that I just want to stay here. But we must be very cautious. Sometimes those experiences can come, and we should know what is the Brahman. Where if there's no object of worship, if it's not like Krishna focused, if it's not like focused on Vrindavan Dham and direct service to Krishna, then it is the Brahman. So we should be very cautious there and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of Nitya Prem. Nitya Prem is something completely distinct. Amitva mimam sabrame nija jade buddhi nirvishesha brahma gyan nahi chita shuddhi. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified by such delusion by endeavors for nirvishesh brahm gyan. Yes, if we try to go this path of moksha, it's the only alternative if we haven't discovered that current, that connection of devotion in the heart to the object of devotion. Then the next option is the nirvishesh brahm. The soul wants to be enlivened, it wants to be um, uh, satisfied in some way. So it'll look for the nirvishesh brahm conception if it's not connecting with loving devotion to Krishna, this Nitya Prem. Ivitrata hina hale nirvishesha hoy, kala simutulya seya aprakrita noy. The Mayavadi thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental. Thus he rejects Sri Krishna's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia qualities, and lila. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesh Brahm. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is repeating himself, you know, constantly to try and make this impression of the dangers of Nirvishesh Brahm and the dangers or the deceptive nature of these four dharmas. Kande jnana hoya dharma ache sunishchaya, prakritita hoila kabu aprakrita naya. Such base and contemptible gyan, which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan, is only fit to be rejected. It is prakrita, materialistic, and should never be given credence as apricot dham. So we have to be educated in these matters. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us the path very clearly, but we need education in all these matters, in what is prakrita and what is apricot. We have to know exactly clearly what it is, and there's no higher education than this Jaiva Dharma. It takes us the whole way, all the way from the very initial stage to the highest stage of Raganuga Bhakti. Everything is within this Jaiva Dharma. So now we're coming to page 316, and we've read through most of this. We had reached the bottom of page 316, actually. We had talked about the Chit Shakti, we talked about Maya Shakti, and we've just finished speaking about Jiva Shakti. It's gone into detail, some detail, about each of these three Shaktis. So I'll just read again the Jiva Shakti just to refresh from where we were last time. Babaji, Jiva Shakti is the atomic potency of Swarup Shakti. Atomic means very small potency of Swarup Shakti. And all three aspects of Swarup Shakti are present in it to a minute degree. Thus, the Hladini Vritti is always present in the Jiva in the form of Brahmanand, spiritual bliss. Sangvid Vritti is present in the form of Brahmagyan, transcendental knowledge. Brahmagyan here means knowledge of Brahm. It doesn't mean Nirvishesh Brahm. It means knowledge of Brahm, transcendental knowledge. And Sandini Vritti is present in the Jiva's minute form. So you'll see on that diagram, that sketch, that where these three influences from Swarup Shakti are manifesting on the Jiva Shakti, the Jiva himself. I will explain this subject matter more clearly when we discuss Jiva Tattva. In Maya Shakti, the Hladini Vritti is manifest in the form of mundane pleasure, Jad Ananda. Jad means dull, dull pleasure. That means pleasure with just the gross material senses, etc. Sangvid Vritti is manifest in the form of material knowledge, Bhautik Gyan, and the Sandini Shakti is manifest in the form of the entire material universe. This is all material, so that potency of existence is demonstrating itself in this material world, as this material world, which consists of the 14 planetary systems and the material bodies of the jivas. This is all the manifestation of the Sandini Shakti. So we have these different appreciations, how the different vrittis are acting on the jiva. Hladini Shakti, Hladini Vritti as the Brahmand, and the Sangvid Vritti as the Brahmagyan, and the Sandini Vritti as the jiva's minute spiritual form. This is his minute, the form of the jiva. And then how the Maya Shakti is manifesting through the Hladini Vritti, manifesting as mundane pleasure. Pleasure must be there for the jiva if he's not connecting with transcendence and his real spiritual pleasure. He will always be seeking anxiously pleasure in this world. And this is our difficulty always, because if we're not fully realized, then we're not going to be feeling that spiritual bliss. Therefore, we will seek material pleasure of one form or another, of eating, of sleeping, of mating, etc. Any form like that, we will seek that pleasure, that bliss. Eating or not eating is also pleasure. In the form of material knowledge, Bhautik Gyan, and the Sandini Shakti is manifest in the form of the entire material universe. Yes, this entire Brahmand is a manifestation of the material existence potency, that's Sandhini Shakti. Brajanath, why is Shakti called inconceivable if all its activities can be understood like this? So he's describing, analyzing each of these separate Shaktis and how they act on the Jiva, and how Maya Shakti is uh, acting by the potencies of Hladini, Sangvit, and Hladini. And we can understand them to some degree, or we can appreciate them to some degree. And so he's asking, why are they called inconceivable? If you can talk about them in this way, that's the question. So Babaji answers, these topics can be understood in isolation from each other, but their relationships are inconceivable in the material world because opposite qualities have the inherent tendency to annihilate each other. Did we read this on Saturday? I think we read this through on Saturday. You don't remember. So we read it again anyway. Okay. Have the inherent tendencies to annihilate each other. Principles that are mutually opposed cannot be present together in the same place. You can't be walking and be stationary at the same time, but the inconceivable Lord, he can be. So it's describing Krishna's achintya nature. Um, annihilate each other. Principles that are mutually opposed cannot be present together in the same place. However, Sri Krishna's Shakti has such inconceivable power that in the spiritual world it manifests all the mutually opposing qualities together at the same time and in a very wonderful and beautiful manner. Even though Sri Krishna has the most beautiful form, Roop, he is formless, Arup. He's formless in the form of his Nirvishesh Brahm. This is also Krishna. So he's formless and he has form. He has a transcendental Murti form, but he is present everywhere. This was the question before. If Krishna is medium sized, which means he has um, a distinct um, uh, parameter for his existence, so to speak, his body, then how can he be all pervasive? So Babaji has answered this question before, that we're limiting Krishna to our material conception always. We're always bringing it down to our material, limited understanding. He has a transcendental murti, and he is present everywhere. He is always active, and yet being unaffected, he performs no karma. There's the beautiful verse, Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate. This is a verse that's described by Uddhav in the third canto. This is chapter 4 of the third canto, verse 16. And it's saying, Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate durgashraya tari vayat pralayanam kalat mano yat pramod yuteshram svetman rate kidyati dira vidam iha. This is Karmani anihasya, that Krishna is born, but he's not born. Karmani anihasya bhavo bhavasyate, that he is he works, karmani, and he doesn't work at the same time. He's fear personified, and yet he runs away and hides in a fort from his enemies, acting as if he's afraid. And he's the most renounced person, yet he lives in an ashram with 16,000 queens. So Uddhav is saying even sages become bewildered by these contradictions. So it's the same principle that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is opening out here, that how can we appreciate these complete opposite, opposing qualities and activities of Krishna at the same time, simultaneously. Simultaneously, he's born, and yet he's never born, etc. He is always active, yet being unaffected, he performs no karma. That's the karmani anihasya. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj, although he is unborn. Actually, for the devotees, we accept this and we can roll with it, so to speak. We've heard it from the beginning. And by chanting Hare Krishna, this is again the efficacy or the proof of chanting Hare Krishna, that by engaging in this devotional service, we can actually appreciate this quite simply, that Krishna is born as the son of Nanda Baba and Mother Yashoda, but at the same time, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We run these two parallels together in our consciousnesses and are appreciating both of them. Isn't it correct? We're appreciating Krishna as the Supreme. We study, we immerse ourselves in Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahara sarvam pravartante. Krishna is the Lord of all the material and the spiritual worlds. There's nothing greater than Krishna. And at the same time, he's being tied to a grinding mortar by Mother Yashoda. And in the 8th chapter of the first canto, Kunti Devi, she's astonished that the Supreme Lord can be tied to a grinding mortar. She can't bridge this Aishwarya with the Madhurya aspect. So appreciating the Madhurya and the Aishwarya within the same form of Krishna is essential for us to understand the entire um, position and picture, so to speak, of where we're going, of who is Krishna, how is Krishna. Everything has to be reconciled. This practice that we are following is completely holistic, so to speak. There's no question that can't be answered, that can't be reconciled. Everything has to be reconciled for the intelligence, for the consciousness to accept it fully. If there's some little doubt somewhere, then how can the consciousness have that deepest shraddha and faith? All of these doubts have to be completely dispelled. And sometimes we don't even know what the doubts are until they're brought to light by the Shastra, which is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is doing here. He's bringing these considerations to light. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj, although he is unborn. He is simply a cowherd boy, although he is worshipped by all others. Actually, even in the Krishna Lila, it's described that Mother Yashoda, she's anxiously waiting for Krishna to return. And Krishna's returning with all the cows and the cowherd boys. And it's described that there are many devas lining the road and they're offering their worship to Krishna. And Krishna's reciprocating as he's going along. And the gopis are telling Mother Yashoda that there's many personalities who are glorifying Krishna as he returns. That's why he's late, Mother. That's why he won't be home in time. So they actually say like this to Mother Yashoda. So these are the two considerations going on. Krishna is Sarvagyan. That means he knows everything. And he's Mugdata. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know that he's the Supreme. At the same time, we see the example of Baladev Prabhu. He has these qualities also. And when they're playing that game, a Pralambasura carries Balaram and starts to carry him away from the other cowherd boys. And Balaram is realizing, who is this? This is not a cowherd boy. This is some sort of demon. But he's forgotten his omniscience, it's described by Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, because he's immersed himself in the Sakya Ras. He's been playing so intensely as a cowherd boy. He's forgotten. He has these omniscient potencies. And Krishna has to shoot him a glance. Balaram looks towards Krishna and Krishna gives him a glance. Wake up. You're not just a cowherd boy anymore. And then he realizes instantly, oh yes, and punches Pralamba. One punch in the face and cracks his skull. So like this, it's just these two parallels are running simultaneously, which is astonishing, completely astonishing, that Krishna is that Supreme Personality of Godhead, but at the same time, he's not. And we, as devotees, we can reconcile this. We've heard it from the very beginning. From the very beginning, we were reading Bhagavad Gita. And then we were, from the very beginning, in the month of Kartik every year, the Damodar Astakam, we are reading how Krishna becomes bound by Mother Yashoda. So from the very beginning, we were reading this. Simultaneously, we were reading from Bhagavad Gita. So these two teachings have been running parallel in our consciousnesses. So it's not such a huge quantum leap for us to accept what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing here now. We already appreciate this, isn't it? We already understand this. He is, although he is unborn, he is simply a cowherd boy, although he is worshipped by all others, and he has a human-like form and bhav, although he is omniscient. Seems he has a human form. It's like the gopis, for example. They have heard from Purnamasi that Krishna is God, and momentarily they consider that possibility, but it is only momentarily. We have to really appreciate this deeply. In the Ragvartman Chandrika, it's described in the commentary by my Gurudev that he describes it like this: Aishwarya Bhav will manifest as you were boiling 200 liters of milk, and occasionally a piece of grass comes to the surface of the boiling milk, and then it gets submerged again in the quantity of milk. So this is like that Aishwarya Bhav manifesting in Krishna very, very momentarily, and then it gets drowned out by the Madhurya constantly. It's also interesting to appreciate that when the gopis are feeling the deepest separation, they sometimes have a momentary appreciation that Krishna is that supreme personality of Godhead. And they say in their prayers, what's that? Gopi Kalo, I can't remember the verse. I can't remember the verse. Um, in the Gopi Gita. Just pass me that songbook on the top there. Yes, yes. I want to know this verse. I've forgotten it. Nakalo Gopi ka Nandano Bhavan Akila Dehinam Antarat Madrik. It's saying, "O friend, you are certainly not only the son of Yashoda, you are also the supersoul who resides in the heart of all living beings. In response to the prayer of Lord Brahma, you have descended in the Yadav dynasty in order to protect the universe." So the gopis are saying like this in their um, state of separation from Krishna. And even more so than this, when they're actually in front of Krishna in the Pranaya Gita, when Krishna's called them by his flute song and they've come into the forest um, for the first time, and Krishna sends them all home, and then they become mortified, and then they, in 9 verses there, they defeat Krishna. And in one of those verses, they're saying that you're not just the son of Mother Yashoda, like this verse here, but here they're actually standing in front of Krishna, and this understanding of Krishna's divine nature comes, but it's only momentarily that it actually comes. And certainly when they're in union, it never comes. He's just their beloved. Never, never. Except in that one time when they're both in that pranaya gita, when they're both together. But that's that gopis are feeling separation because Krishna sent them home. When they've come to the forest, he says, "Oh, chaste ladies shouldn't be out in the night like this. You know, what will your father and brothers and family think of this? This is not the correct behavior. You should go home now." The gopis, they scratch Mother Earth. They want to actually enter into her. They become so um, unhappy at this prospect of having to go back into their home. They say it's like vantasi. They say like we will be eating our own vomit. They don't want to go back again. But at this time, they're saying, Krishna, that you're not only the mother of Yashoda, you know, the son of Yashoda. So these considerations must be there. Do you understand all I said?
Yes, I was always wondering when I was reading what they're saying, that he's the super soul and how's that
Well,
possible?
Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments only when they're in a separation mood can they. That's one of the specialities of the separation mood, is to be able to perceive both of the worlds simultaneously, to perceive him as their beloved and as also as the supreme person. It's only when they're in separation. In separation, they have more vision like that. then in union, their vision is only focused on Krishna. It's nothing else. And the loving exchanges that they're experiencing is just all encompassing. But when they're separated, there's a space for this, the depth of this Vipralamba to actually manifest itself in the form of appreciating him as the Supreme Lord. But it's only very rare. It comes up like the blades of grass from the boiling milk, just momentarily. It's not that they linger in that place. They don't really believe he's God. Not really in their hearts, they don't believe he's God. And neither does Nanda Baba or Mother Yashoda. When Uddhav, he comes and he starts um, in the 46th chapter, he comes back into Braj and he's speaking to Nanda Baba, who's so feeling separation from Krishna. And Uddhav says, of course, you know that Krishna is not really your son. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nanda Baba's thinking, who is this boy? You know, what does he understand? He's my son. Even though he lifted Govardhan Hill and all those cowherd men are saying you should treat your boy nicely, he's actually not an ordinary boy. And Nanda Baba just laughs at them. He says, whatever he's doing here, sometimes he cries, he steals, he lies. This isn't God. God doesn't cry and steal and lie and have tantrums and stuff like that. This can't be God. So he pacifies them like that. So Yoga Maya also acts in this capacity to cover them regularly because Krishna wants to enact this pastime of being ignorant of his Godhead. You know, when you're in that supreme position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what sort of relationships will you have if they're all sort of tainted with a mood of, oh, you're so great, you're so great, you're so great, like in Vaikuntha? They don't satisfy totally. So when that platform is um, purified and they're just thinking that he's the boy who has to be chastised, he's the boy who has to be told off, etc. Like Sridham will fight with Krishna, defeat him. What sort of big man do you think you are? You know, I can defeat you anytime. They're not like when Krishna defeats the wrestlers in Mathura. All the and then they Krishna and Balaram, when they've killed Kamsa, they begin dancing on the stage, and all the cowherd boys, they become so happy, and they believe firmly that they could have killed those wrestlers and Kamsa also because they know that they have the same potency as Krishna. Krishna has given them that impression. And they all come onto the stage and they all begin dancing, playing their flutes and, frolicking around on the stage fearlessly because they believe that they're the same as Krishna, that he's not such a great man. Even there's a pastime in Vidagdha Madhav I was reading the other day, so beautiful. I think I mentioned it even that Krishna, he's playing his flute and Balaram is witnessing all the rocks are melting and Jamuna Devi has become stagnant and the atmosphere has become so thick and charged. And then Madhumangal, he pushes Krishna. He says, hey, this is not you that's playing the flute. This is the beauty of the flute. He says, don't think that this is just you. This flute has its own melody. It's not only you. So Madhumangal, he says, like completely like breaks that Aishwarya in a moment. So how amazing. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur was describing. It's the Aishwarya and the Madhurya simultaneously. Krishna is fear personified, yet he runs and hides in a fortress. He's the most renounced, yet he has an ashram filled with women. You know, he's born, but he's not born. These are contradictory things. How can we reconcile? By the potency of the Hare Krishna mantra inspiring the heart towards loving that Supreme Lord and accepting, just accepting this achintya nature. We can't control it. Our material natures is we always want to control everything. Want to scientifically analyze it, put it in a box, have it explained materially, and then I'll accept it. But with Krishna, it's saying, no, you can't. You can't. You can't be walking and be stationary at the same time. So you have to accept this achintya. This is wonderful. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj, although he is unborn. He is simply a cowherd boy, although he is worshipped by all others. Lord Brahma, he comes. What sort of difficulty does Lord Brahma have? Lord Brahma is Lord Brahma. He's born from the lotus of he's seen, he's manifested all of these planetary systems from the stem of the lotus, and he's populated them. And he knows his supreme position in this material world. He's the guna avatar of passion. He's created all this material world. He knows Krishna is the infusion of power that's doing that. And then he sees this little cowherd boy, and why should he think that he's that supreme lord? So he steals all the the cows and the cowherd boys, in order to test his mystic opulence. And then he sees that actually this is that supreme lord. It's described that Lord Brahma's senses, all of his senses are jolted, is the word that's used by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. They're jolted. They're completely like smashed. And he collapses. He climbs down off his swan carrier and he offers full dandavats. Generally, the devas, they never touch this earth. But he climbs down from his swan carrier. He touches the earth and offers full dandavat with all his helmets touching the lotus feet of Krishna. And Krishna says, "Oh, Lord Brahma, you're the grandfather of the universe. What are you doing? Why are you doing like this to me? I'm just a little cowherd boy." And Brahma said, "No, no, you're not. Now I know who you are." So he's making that reconciliation. But just in a moment, we've had so many years to make that reconciliation. Lord Brahma is doing it like in a moment. He's making that reconciliation with who is this Lord? This Lord is from the navel where I've manifested. He's the Lord of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Garbhodakshay Vishnu is the Ishtadev of Lord Brahma. That's his worshipable deity. But this is even higher than that. So it's quite amazing. He has a human-like form and bhav, although he is omniscient. Beautiful. Similarly, at one and the same time, he possesses all qualities. Sa vishesh. I explained sa vishesh. Sa means with. Every time the prefix of sa, like we say sakam, sa means with. And nir means without. And yet he has no qualities, nirvishesh. This is why it's so bewildering for philosophers. They hear about the Brahman, they hear about, they might even experience that, and then they will think that it's God because they don't understand Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. You remember when Vyasadeva was dictating to Ganeshji the Bhagavatam, and the condition was that Ganeshji had to understand everything that Vyasadeva was saying. And Vyasadev's condition was, you mustn't stop speaking. So Vyasadeva was speaking this verse in the second chapter only. Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmati paramatmati bhagavan. That the Lord is three in one. He's the Brahman, he's Paramatma, and he's Bhagavan. Ganesh, he couldn't understand this. How can he be three? How can he be that Brahman, which all the devas worship ultimately, because Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the deva, he's described as Brahman realized. So that's as high as the devas can go. So Ganeshji is thinking, well, this is Brahman, and then Paramatma, which is so high, he's thinking, even though who is Paramatma's mother and father? Where does Paramatma have a personal form? Paramatma doesn't have a personal form. And then Bhagavan, how can he be all three? And he broke his pen in frustration trying to understand this. So then he breaks off one of his tusks. You always see Ganesh with just half a tusk. And then he breaks off the tusk and continues the Bhagavatam like that. But Ganesh can't even understand it. The son of Lord Shivji. What to speak of us? But we can understand it. Why? Because we have the holy name of the Lord. That's why. Because the mercy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra has opened our consciousnesses to appreciate this very easily. What I'm saying, try and remember when you first came to the devotional service, you probably came on the back of the Bhagavad Gita. Natyam parananyat kischid asti jananjaya. What's that? Mai sarvam idam portram sutre manigana ava. That all the worlds are hanging on me like a thread, all like pearls on a thread. All these beautiful verses exclaiming Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet at the same time, we're understanding he's this little boy in Vrindavan. Not only just a little boy, but a lover of the gopis simultaneously. All of these different aspects are within Krishna simultaneously. How amazing is this personality of Krishna? How can we go to the impersonal when we understand so much of the personal? We're swamped with these personal descriptions through the Srimad Bhagavatam. It starts in the very beginning with the different personalities that are described through the Bhagavatam. Who is Yudhishthira Maharaj? Who is Vidura? Who is Parikshit? Who is Shukadev? All of these personalities, all personalities. Oh my God, got late. I'm going to finish this paragraph anyway. And yet he has no qualities. Oh, he possesses all qualities, Savishesh, and yet he has no qualities, Nirvishesh. He is achintya, inconceivable, and full of rasa. He is both limited and limitless. He is very far away and very close by. He's closer than the lid of our eye, and yet he's billions of miles away simultaneously. He is unaffected, nirabhaka, nirvikara, and yet he is afraid of the man, the sulking mood of apparent anger of the gopis. He is afraid. He does so much um, to try to pacify Sri Radhika. It's very fearful for Krishna. He's not afraid of anything, but when Radharani sends him a glass, Radharani will defeat him. Even in wrestling, she will defeat him. In every way, she'll defeat him. Krishna is afraid of this. And yet he is afraid of the man, sulking mood, apparent anger of the gopis. How far can we enumerate the infinite variety of Sri Krishna's qualities, such as these? How can you count the qualities when there's so many opposites there? They contradict each other, and yet they are eternally and beautifully present without opposition or conflict in his swarup. No conflict. They're eternally present. We can't begin to understand it. It is a chintya, but it's so gloriously beautiful, isn't it? Isn't it just wonderful to conceive and consider how beautiful all of these qualities are reposing in a single swarup of this personality? His abode, and in his various paraphernalia related to him. This is the inconceivable nature of his Shakti. So, Brajanath, do the Vedas accept this? Okay, that's a good question. So, we'll leave that for tomorrow. So, we're going to stop these classes a week today, and I'm going to begin our immersion in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas and Dham next Monday, even though the parikrama actually begins next Tuesday, but we'll have a day before that just to become familiar with many of the teachings. So I'm hoping to complete this chapter by Saturday, and then I'm going to stop there for about 4 or 5 weeks, because after the Goradhan Parikrama, then I'm going to Tripura and to Vrindavan, and then to Radhakund for some time, and etc. And I'll be speaking from there on Gopi Geet perhaps some days. So I'll be suspending these classes for 4 or 5 weeks, but then I'll come back on the 19th of April. On the 19th of April, and then I'll resume with the Jiva Tattva. There'll be 3 chapters on Jiva Tattva. So there'll be Gorpranim in the meantime, where I'll do a live stream every day on Gorpranim for 10 days, 7, 8 days. And then after that, intermittently, I'll do some classes as I travel around in Vrindavan. And then we'll be back on the 19th of April to resume our Jaiva Dharma study. So Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Haribol, Gouda Haribol, Nitai Gouda Haribol, 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 Gouda Premanandi, Hari Haribol, Vanchakalpatrubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevacha, Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha.